Good morning, everybody. This is reading week 6 and it is for year 3 and 4. This is lesson 4 and today's lesson focus. We will be looking at 2 poems about animals and how the writers use effective imagery, personification or interesting structure in their poems. We will also have vipers at the end of this lesson. Today's learning objective is to evaluate a poem and your success criteria. I can evaluate how effective a poem has been. I can also explain why the poem has been effective. I can even compare 2 poems and decide which one is the most effective. Okay, vocabulary slide. So here is some vocabulary from the poems. Let's see if you know what these words mean. So, crag. Have you heard of this before? What does it mean? Do you know? Let's have a look. So, it is a steep or rugged cliff or rock face. And the next one, azure. Have you heard of this before? What does it mean? It is used to describe things that are bright blue. Snuffling. What does snuffling mean? Have you heard of this before? Okay, let's have a look. So it is to breathe noisily through the nose due to a cold or crying. And finally, we have pinbright. Have you heard of this before? What does this mean? This is quite a hard one. So pinbright means it's bright and clean and shiny. What is your favourite animal? And how would you describe your favourite animal? The following 2 extracts are taken from the poems. You're going to be a poetry detective today. You're going to try to guess the animals being described in each poem. And this will be learning activity 1. To help you, you can underline any keywords or phrases that stand out to you. Let's have a look. This is the extract from poem 1, and I shall read it to you. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Has that given you any clues as to what animal the poet is talking about? You may want to read this several times. And now we're going to look at the extract from poem 2. Comes snuffling in his prickly coat, scuffing the leaves for slugs. Okay, so have you any idea at all what the second animal could be? Are there any clues in there? I think there's a few. Read them both several times and see if you can guess the animals that the poets are talking about. Okay, let's see if you've guessed right. Let's read the poems. The first one is called The Eagle. So the first poem was about a bird, an eagle. He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Ringed with this world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. And this poem is by Alfred Lord Tennyson. The second poem, Midnight Visitors. Hedgehog. So did you guess that it was a hedgehog? Let's read the poem. Hedgehog comes snuffling in his prickly coat, scuffing the leaves for slugs. Cat comes soft as a moth, a shadow painted on the lawn by moonlight. Owl comes floating, sits still as a cat on the wall, watching, listening. Mouse freezes under the leaves, on tiptoe paws, quick eyes, pin bright, hungry. And this poem is by Irene Rawnsley. Learning activity 2. Does the writer use effective imagery, personification, or interesting structure in either of the poems? So remember, we have looked at several other poems and we've discussed imagery, personification, and we also discussed the structure of a poem. Do you remember the diamond-shaped poem? So you need to pick your favourite stanza from one of the poems, and then you need to explain why it is your favourite stanza. So just to recap, in case you've forgotten what a stanza is a group of lines of poetry, and there's usually 4 or more lines. Imagery makes the reader feel like they are actually in the poem. Personification is when you give an animal or object qualities or abilities that only a human can have. This is your final activity today, and it's learning activity 3, and our focus will be on vipers. So V for vocabulary. What does snuffling mean? I for infra. Which word describes a steep or rugged cliff or rock face? P for predict. What are the poets wanting the reader to imagine? E for explain. Have the poets used effective imagery in either of the poems? And if you think they have, explain why. And if you don't think they have, explain why you think that. R for retrieve. Can you identify a line in one of the poems where the poet has used personification? And finally, S for summarize. Which poem did you prefer and why? You now need to complete the Vipers worksheet. And today's plenary. I would like you to choose one of the poems and draw a picture of what you are imagining. Reflection. How well did you do today? Did you achieve all of the success criteria? Well done, everybody.